Hello and welcome to the series where we're checking out submissions to the Dungeoncrawler Gamejam 2023. And this time we will have a look at Larrikin of SPLORR Kordanors Catacomb. And if that name sounds familiar, then let me explain. So, this developer, the grumpy GameDev, did a very similar game during the last jam. I think it was the last jam in 2022. And I played it and I recorded the video like I did now. And the developer then included basically my name as kind of a joke so that I would also have a look at this new game. So yeah, my name, so I'm not part of the development of that entry, but he's using my name in that title, which is fine with me as long as it's not like a commercial title or something like that. So, hello and welcome to this, the next entry in Dungeoncrawler Jam 2023 Gamejam. You can play the entire game with the arrow keys, the spacebar enter key and the escape key. The prologue explains the goal. My theme implementation is something of a stretch, but I managed to do it. Okay. So, a few words regarding, or a few additional words regarding the game, because that might raise some questions. So first, I will refer a lot to the previous game, and it looks almost and plays, well, somewhat identical, and it looks almost identical. However, this I checked with Zopadan, the host of the jam, and this is a completely new build. So he, the developer here, the grumpy GameDev, basically programmed that from scratch, I think. So yeah, it qualifies for the jam as far as I see it, or as far as I can judge it. There are several changes to the previous game, which I will get to later. And yeah, I already played through the game once, and then I was thinking about checking some stuff. And so just so you know, this is not my very first attempt here. So let me switcheroo, and here we are in the game. And yes, we can select the screen size, which I think this is good enough. We don't need 4K. I think you can read this font very well in that size, and we don't need a higher resolution. We can change the SFX volume, which is fine. I already decreased it via the Windows setting. About Kordanors Catacomb by the grumpy GameDev Dungeoncrawler Jam 2023. See a boot text for more. Okay. So let me quickly have a look into that. I did not check that one, but if that's actually existing. A boot there. Other things I should probably tell you: graphical images from Vurumux, itch.io, Urizen, 1-bit tile sets. Okay, other inspirations: IKEA. You will see about that. The Modern Swedish Cooking by Anna Olsson Coombs for Köttbullar. I thought that was also an IKEA thing, but okay. The Delightful Malcontents and Ne'er-do-wells who watch my stream. Yeah, and the grumpy GameDev is also a Twitch streamer, so if you're interested in that, you can check on Twitch the grumpy GameDev. And sound effects, I ripped them off from my own previous projects, which is Freebooter of SPLORR. And reusing assets from the previous game is allowed. It's just not the idea that you basically take the game from previous jam and then, or from somewhere, and then add on top of that. So this is apparently a complete rewrite, which is extremely similar like the previous game. So with that said, let's let's embark. Prologue. Your quest: find a cup of tea. Find a match, light the tea to make it a lit tea. Find a sponge. Find some dew. Collect the dew with the sponge. Then squeeze out the dew onto the lit tea, thus achieving dew a lit tea. And yes, it took me a while to get that as well. Because the theme of that jam is duality. And yeah. So I guess this game achieves a duality by dew a lit tea, which, okay. I guess it's good enough. Get it? It's a pun, it's funny, lol. Yeah. So, the game is, and the previous game also is pretty simply structured. So we have HP 3/3, attack 1, defense 2. And we have these rooms, and this is like tile-based, but each tile is basically a room. So we are going from room to room, and in each room we can then, we have a map here, we can check our inventory, we can look at the ground, so we take the cut bullet, and we can also eat that thing at any time. And yeah, navigate, so we can look around. So from the perspective, I mean, it's pretty much perfect. I mean, it's not the usual crawler vision, but the thing is that you can see everything you need to see. You see basically the tile you're on, which is the room. You can see if there's a corridor to the left, if there's a corridor to the right, and if there is a way ahead. So you know that you can go into all directions. And I think moving back is actually not possible. But let me check if I actually moved back yet. No, I did not, but I pressed the button. So yeah, you cannot move back. You only can move forward and turn. So you move from room to room, and then you basically fight. And you can see, I mean, you can just click on fight, and basically that's one turn. So we are the Larrikin. We attack the blob. We roll a 0. The blob rolls a 0, and Larrikin misses, and the blob misses as well. So the combat is very quick. We just click and see both results, and that's it. So very quick, but that doesn't mean bad, because I mean we see everything, and in theory we have a Synth engine, okay? We take that, and we can also use that. This is delicious, and we now increased our HP from 3 to 4. So let's continue, and okay, we are missing, and we are killing the blob, and there's something on the floor, which is another cut bullet. Okay, we take that. Oh no, this is my inventory. That was the ground. Okay, take, and we can see on the map we have a way to the east, and we should probably do that and see if there's anything else there, and there is not. You can see that this room is enclosed, so we take this and navigate. Fights, and I can already see that there is a knife on the ground, so let's check the ground. We take both of that. No items on the ground anymore. We check the inventory and use the Verda, which is a sharp knife, and we attacked. We increased our attack by that. Now it would be nice, actually. I don't really see a point in having these items lying on the floor. Then you would need to pick them up, and then you would need to use them to increase these values. So I think you could just automatically add them to the values, or even better, have some game mechanic on it. I'm not 100% sure if the previous game did that, but I know that at least one other game did it in the last jam, that you found weapons basically, and these had like 5 durability, and then you could hit a couple of times, and if like 5 hits, the 5 durability is gone. and now you had to fight with your fists again or something like that. So each enemy you would think about, okay, should I use that weapon for that enemy or should I not use that? So that would be more interesting, and it might be that the previous game was actually using that. Now, what the previous game was using for sure is it did not have this cut bully running, not running, lying around, and we took that. So you can see in the top right, we actually have multiple enemies, we had multiple enemies in that case. So now I can show you, we took 2 of these items, and I can just eat them now, and I get 1 hit point back. And this is something the previous game, I think, did much better. The SPLORR, Larrikin of SPLORR, or something like that from the previous game, the SPLORR game. So because the previous game had healing potions, and as far as I remember, and these healing potions were healing more than 1 point. So in that case, you would need to think about whether you actually wanted to use the healing potion now to heal up this 1 hit point, or if you face the risk of receiving more damage. And there are 2 reasons why or how there is a bad change in that regard, unfortunately. So the one reason is that now you always have one item which is 1 hit point, and that means that there's no judgment. Basically, there's no risk. It's a no-brainer. Every time you take damage, you should just use the item, because there's no reason not to use it. You cannot waste anything, basically. And the second thing, which is making it a bit worse than, or making actually is a lot worse than the previous game, which made the previous game very interesting in terms of mechanics, is that the previous game had very different enemies. I don't know how many, like maybe 4 or 5 different enemy types or something like that. And these enemies then were 1 second. Yeah, these enemies had a very different. They had different attack and defense values, or hit points or something like that. And with that, you were facing so now I use the hit points, I eat it, and now I continue fighting. So in that game, you let me use this. You could go into the next room, and then you were suddenly facing, I don't know, a skeleton or something, which was then doing not just 1 damage, but 2 damage. And then it suddenly became more interesting regarding whether or not you should maybe you flee. Maybe you don't want to do this room yet because it's too hard, or anything like that. And this, unfortunately, basically doesn't exist anymore. So this second SPLORR game is basically losing all the challenge. I don't think you can actually lose this game unless you have very bad luck and do incredibly bad at the very beginning. And this judgment of combat in the previous game was one thing which I very much liked about it. So I prefer the previous game over this, which is very similar in terms of game mechanics, just that they are used in a different way, and that made that game much more interesting. So, but I mean, this game is all still well working, and I forgot to check a room in on the very east. But let's continue the way here, and I will also stop collecting the healing items here. You also saw that we a while ago we found another compass. And you can see that now on the top we actually see the direction of where we are heading. And yes, we find some items, we increase our attack value, our defense value, and our HP value. And now this is probably the most interesting part of this game. We find not the compass. We find a sponge, and what was written in the beginning is actually part of the game. So with a sponge, we need to find the some water on the ground or something, and then we need to soak it up. And so there's a cup, and there's some tea. All right. And once we have these like components, we basically create the duality, and with that, we then win the game. So you can see that we have 4 enemies. But it's not like anything could happen here. Oh, we have cut bullet and a match. So we need that match to light. I'm not sure what we're actually lighting. Let's see, inventory. The sponge we can't use here. Yeah, let's use that first. It's delicious. Oops, I accidentally went forward. Inventory. So we can use the match maybe. You use the match on the tea. Just now, a lit tea. All right. So. Yeah. And no. And ground. Okay. Navigate. North. And find. Okay. So now I don't even need to heal myself, because there is no risk, and this is a bit unfortunate. So yes, the previous game had much more challenge. You had different enemies, and you would really need to think about whether you take the risk, whether you flee out of the room, whether you drink a healing potion, and so on. And unfortunately, this game does not have any of that, making the you cannot take the puddle, making the combat rather boring, unfortunately. Inventory. So we have the sponge, and we can use that sponge now to sop up the dew. And now we go back to the inventory, and we can use the wet sponge and put it into the tea, the lit tea, and now we have dew lit tea. And with that, we won the game. And that's Larrikin of SPLORR Kordanors Catacomb. As mentioned, I'm not involved in the development. So overall, I think it's kind of a solid game for a jam. However, I think that the previous game was much better. Because of the much more interesting combat and judging of the combat. This game has the so I'm talking about the Larrikin of SPLORR from 2022, I think. Maybe it was 2021. I think it was 2022. So yeah, because the combat was much more interesting. What this game, I think, added to the whole thing was the putting the items together. This is basically a quest type thing, right? So in terms of how well does navigation and so work, I think that's fine. You see everything which you need to see. It's not the let's call it traditional crawler perspective, but it has everything which is needed. So there, I don't have any issue with that. The combat mechanics, and this is a part where it's a bit hard to judge. In that case, I mean, the combat mechanics, I would say they are basically well, but they are not well used in this instance. Because you basically can't use and you can always heal up to the fullest. So even though this game basically has the same combat mechanic as the previous game, Larrikin of SPLORR, I would say that this game has worse combat because of the different factors playing in, like other enemies and other items you find. Then the content, I think that's perfectly fine for the gem. Like, I actually like that you have to pick up these items and put them together and have this quest item thing. And this also plays into like the theme. Yes, the theme was duality, and we found duality. It works. Also, you could argue that it's black and white. I would say that it's not the best implementation in the world, but it works. Regarding the artwork, and that's also extremely basic. It kind of works, but I'm also missing a bit of the diversity here. So yes, it is nice and funny that you have these IKEA items here, and you have this IKEA hat, and I guess the Köttbullar is IKEA thing. Well, at least IKEA has that, even though Anna Olsson is somehow, I don't know. So that's something, and but the previous game also had different enemies, and they really looked like with very few pixels. I mean, this looked a bit like, okay, how do you interpret this enemy? And this was cool, and I think this one was lacking by just having these blobs. So on the graphical side, I would not say that it's awesomely standing out, and that the previous game was a tiny bit better because it had different enemy graphics. And for the sound composition, it's probably improvement towards the last game, because the last game I think only had and that's all, and this one had some different, maybe 3 different sound effects, if at all. Maybe it was just one sound effect, I don't know. So it's very much on the minimum end. Maybe it would have profited from some background music, and even if it's just some PC speaker, but PC speaker which you can decrease in volume or something like that, just to give it a bit more atmosphere. But overall I think it's still a decent submission. But yes, I think I very much preferred the Larrikin of SPLORR from the previous jam. And if you want to check out this game or the previous jam, then make sure you can look down in the video description, and you will find a link there to the itch.io page. And in order to find the previous game, which I will probably not link because I will forget it, you can click on the jam and then click on the organizer of the jam, which is Sopadan, and then you can also find the other jams he hosted. Or you just go to Dungeoncrawlers.org, and there you can find, in the news, you can also find the jam from 2022 and the different submissions there, and also the jam from 2021, which also had some great submissions. So if you want to check out even more games, and if these 180 games of this jam, or how I think there are around 180, if they are not enough for you, then you have 2 more jams to look into. And that's it for today, though. That was Larrikin of SPLORR by the grumpy GameDev, and I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again next time with the next game of the Dungeoncrawler Gamejam 2023. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.